All right, we are live on Las Vegas Tri Club Facebook page, and we're recording. I'm John Mercer, president of Las Vegas Tri Club. It's Thursday night and time to do a member spotlight. Hey, Bob, how's it going?
Good, good. Glad I could make it.
Yeah,
So,
good. Yeah, you taking a break from your skiing. That's pretty awesome.
well, yeah, I'm on my way home. They moved my procedure up, so I got to be in town tomorrow morning at 7:30. So,
Oh, that's all right. Well, that's great. That's great to get away and do that.
but it saves me from driving from Reno all the way back.
That's
I
good.
have to stick Christine with it.
That's awesome. Hey, I am really looking forward to tonight because we have Paul Mangual on, and Paul has just been a big force in the community for a long period of time. In fact, Paul, I think the first time I met you, it was sort of a weird circumstance. I actually was going to a race and realized I no longer had my Aero helmet. And I had to think back to the last race I had the Aero helmet at, and it was Silverman. And for some reason, I left it in the transition, and I had to contact you, and you still had the helmet, and we were able to meet up, and you gave me my helmet.
That's right, the lost and found. Yeah, because I was the volunteer director
Right.
for that race,
Yeah.
and so I was required to have keep all the gear, the lost and found stuff for like 90 days. I had all kinds of stuff.
Well, that's so funny. It's so funny. I've forgotten to take things to races, and that I forgot to take things from the race. So, so Paul, you've been involved with the community in so many different levels, and as you just mentioned, as volunteer director for Silverman, one of our favorite races here
Miss it.
and it's going to be a lot of fun to hear more about your story. So I'm gonna toss it to Bob to do the official introduction, but I'm really looking forward to catching up with him.
Yeah, this is going to be one of the more fun and informative interviews that we've done, because Paul is one of the most accomplished triathletes in the club, with 14 Ironmen under his belt and 10 70.3s and countless sprints in Olympic. So we're going to pick his brain a little bit about how he stays healthy, so healthy, and getting ready for this kind of a brutal training regimen that he has. But Paul, you joined the club in your first triathlon was in 2007?
2007, yeah. I did the Lake Las Vegas triathlon, I think was my very first one. And Frank Lowry.
What distance was that?
Sprint distance. Okay. And I remember finishing that race, and I remember telling people, it's like, I've never done like hard recreational drugs. But I remember crossing that finish line after, and just this whoosh of emotion and energy that came over me. And I was hooked at that point.
Yeah. Instant. It's like you did it. And I think, yes, it's just, you beat us to the punch on that. We were going to ask you, what did it feel like when you crossed that finish line for the first time?
For my first triathlon ever,
yeah.
Just amazing. And for my first Ironman, even better. I tell people all the time, your first Ironman is kind of like, it's like your first kiss. It's such an amazing feeling, and then you try to chase it every race, and you almost get there, but it's just never as good as the first time.
Nothing's going to take the place of the first one. No, that's cool. That's what keeps you coming back, for sure.
I want to hear a little bit more about your first one, because I always like to hear how people started and what got them engaged in the sport. So what was it that got you to sign up for that Las Vegas Tri, the first one back in 2007?
Yeah. Actually, so I was flipping through the channels. I've been running. I lost a lot of weight, and I had been running, and I was flipping through the channels, and I came across, it was the Ironman World Championship from 2006. It was being replayed on TV, and I remember watching. Just as I turned it on, I see John Blaze rolling across the finish line, as the replay from the year before. So I was watching this going, what is this? I didn't even know what I knew what triathlon was, but I didn't know what Ironman was. I had no idea. And so then like the next weekend, we went to a birthday party for my son. And I don't know if you guys know Chris Armstrong. Chris Armstrong's a member of the tri. He's been a member of the club, and he swims with us. Anyway, he had just finished Pumpkin Man. And he had numbers on his leg. I go, why do you have those numbers on your leg? He goes, oh, I did a triathlon. I go, oh my gosh, I just saw this thing. I go, did you just do an Ironman? And he goes, no, I did a sprint. What's that? So then he goes into explaining this to me, and I was like, I need to try this. I got to get a bike.
I gotta do this. I was like, that sounds cool. Good.
And which was really cool. And actually when I got my legacy spot for Kona, I talked to Chris occasionally. I texted him last night, but I sent him a message right when I got my Kona thing for legacy, and really thanked him just for, he took time to answer questions for me. He took time. Anytime I'm like, I don't understand. Why do I need this bike? Why do I need these shoes? What do I do in transition? What kind of pants do I wear? Like the things that sometimes new people to the sport are afraid to ask.
And you take it for granted once you know it.
Yeah, yeah. So that's why I give him back to the sport too, is because, you know, he was super helpful for me. And then, you know, then I did my first Ironman distance ever was the Silverman. And then I finished that one in 2009. And then after that, I just kept signing up because I'm not very bright.
And you give back, and that's another thing, is you're an instructor at Lifetime. You run spin, I don't want to call it spin training, but the cycling class.
Yeah, it's just spin class, cycling, whatever. But yeah, it's fun, man. I've been doing that. Actually, when I in order for me to train for my very first Ironman, my son was very young, so it was hard for me to get out. So I started teaching, because I could make some money, and then also get my midweek, you know, hard rides in, and then I do my long rides on the weekend.
Wow. I mean, that sounds like a good recipe right there.
It worked. You know, I'm certainly not the fastest athlete, but I'm certainly persistent.
And consistent too.
No, and that's that Ironman spirit. But I want to, you know, go back just a second here, because you sort of glossed over this detail, doing a sprint in 2007 and an Ironman in 2009. That's pretty amazing. So how did you start? You know, you were doing running.
Mm-hmm.
How did you start, you know, getting into training? And it sounds like Chris was helping getting you started. But what were you doing to prep for that first sprint? And then how soon after doing that sprint did you say, I want to do an Ironman?
Yeah. Did you progress through, you know, did you do an Oli first or in a 70.3?
Yes. I did the Las Vegas Triathlon first, and then I did another one. The Lake Las Vegas one. Then I might have done the Las Vegas Tri, and then
in the fall.
Yeah. And then Pumpkin Man. And then so in 2008 is when I did Pumpkin Man half, was my very first 70.3. And so I did all of it. And then, so in the middle of 2008, I decided I wanted to try this Ironman thing, and I knew Silverman was around. So then I actually, on that poster that's behind John, that Silverman poster, that was my teammate in the relay at the time.
Wow.
Yeah, and actually my other teammate was Chris Armstrong. He swam, and then this guy rode the bike, and I his name escapes me because I only knew him for a short time. And then I ran the marathon in 2008, and then I decided I was going to do it myself in 2009. Raised a bunch of money for the Challenged Athletes Foundation in order to do it, and I raised like $20,000 for the Challenged Athletes Foundation.
Good grief!
Make it part, you know, exciting for me, and exciting to make sure I got this thing done, and then and went from there. But the training, you know, I just started. I did a sprint, did another sprint, Olympic, half. I was really self-trained for the first, for a lot of my races. I Triathlete magazine was where I got my training plans from, and went from there. I eventually got certified as USAT coach, just so I could learn more. But that's the progression, really.
Man, I tell you what, you are picking some tough courses here right out of the gate. I mean, to do Pumpkin Man half
Then Silverman.
and then Silverman, I mean, both of those are notorious hard races. So what was it that when you hit those finish lines, you said, oh, I need more of this?
Yeah, that was after my first one, and then I decided I want to sign up for Arizona because I wanted to hear the, Paul Mangual, you are an Ironman. I wanted to hear it, and so I signed up for Ironman Arizona, and then that was and then after that I go, oh wait, it's sold out so quick, but I can sign up again for it next year. Okay, and so I signed up for it again. And then I wound up doing Ironman. Oh, St. George, only 2 hours away. I'll sign up for that one. So I did it in 2012. I did Ironman St. George, and then 2013, Lake Tahoe was happening. So I wanted to try that one, and so I did that one.
Oh, you did Tahoe? Oh my goodness.
The first year, inaugural year, Lake Tahoe.
Yeah.
29 degrees when I got funny story about that one is when we got out of the water, I have a picture of it that I'll post up later on this feed. The water looked like a cappuccino with all the water vapor coming across. Water temperature was 35 degrees warmer than the air temperature.
Oh.
And then when we got out onto the bike, I couldn't even get in the changing tent because so many people were staying in there huddled up because it was like 29 degrees.
Oh,
And I
geez.
had to change outside of the changing tent because everyone's so frozen. And then I got on my bike, and it was a whole bunch of that was just a fun race altogether.
Yeah, that was epic. I mean, now Tahoe only happened, was it one other time after that, or was that
Two more maybe.
two more? Okay, yeah, that's great that you were able to do that, and you did St. George as well.
Yeah, I did St. George the windy year. I don't know if you guys are familiar with what happened, but on that year in 2012 in St. George, the day started perfectly calm, everything was great, and then about 20 minutes into the swim, this windstorm blew through and stayed the whole day. 40-mile-an-hour winds, 30-mile-an-hour winds all day long. It knocked a third of the field out of the race, and I was fortunate enough to finish that one, and it was a long day. I got my money's worth for that one.
All right, so this is really cool because I'm just in here. I want to pick your brain on all the stories from all your races. It's really, really amazing. But I want to get maybe a different perspective and hear you talk about why these endurance events are attracting you. What is it that's pulling you in these directions of not only just an Ironman, but you're picking some of the hardest races too.
Yeah. Well, as far as picking the location of races, it was really just geographical. I wasn't even thinking about the courses. I was just thinking about easy travel and easy ways to get there. Lake Tahoe had someone that would pick our bikes up and drive them up there. Arizona, I could drive to. Silverman was local. St. George I could drive to. I just picked everything in a geographical area that made sense. And what was the second part of that? I'm sorry.
Well, just what's drawing you to these endurance events?
I used to be a fat guy, a real fat guy. Like I have a picture, I call it my Jared picture because I look like Jared from Subway on it. And I lost a lot of weight, and I really am just keeping my mom and that side of the family has health problems. My dad had quadruple bypass surgery. My grandfather, who I never met, his dad died when he was 12 from major heart disease. So for me, it's always been about staying healthy for my son, for my wife, for my family. That's why I got into the endurance events, and it's what I like to do.
That's fantastic. And so,
Hey, I want to jump in here while you're talking about the health aspect of it, and in your endurance training, what have you picked up? What have you learned? What have you changed? And what's, if you say your family did have some history, what turned it around for you? What is it that you can attribute this to? Your awesome endurance and staying healthy.
It's really just I just don't know how or when to stop, I guess. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. I just, I don't like to lose, or I don't like to not finish things. Is really the big part of it. I see what's happened with my family around me, and I need to make sure I kept my health up. And once I did like my second Ironman, then starting my third Ironman, it sort of kind of became who everyone was like, "Hey, Paul, when's your next race?" Well, I better have a next race because someone's going to ask.
Right.
So I just
And it's your lifestyle then.
Yeah, and it's been, and I love it. My, my entire, I mean, I could probably wear an Ironman t-shirt or something every day of the month, and I got it all.
That's awesome. All right, so let's go through, because you've got Kona 2021 coming up.
Yeah.
You're extending out this wait to do Kona. You were supposed to do it last year, but obviously everything got pushed back. But let's go through the legacy program, because I think this is really important, and it's really a testament to your fortitude as an athlete to get legacy for Kona. So you had to do 12 Ironman branded races. So Silverman didn't count.
No, it didn't.
It should have counted twice, but that was just a notoriously hard race. All right, so can you, off the top of your head, name your races?
Yeah, I can. I did. If I don't count Silverman, I did Arizona 8 times. St. George, Lake Tahoe, Wisconsin, Boulder, and Santa Rosa. That makes 8. Yeah, that makes.
That's awesome. And then you had to do, after you got your 12th one, you still had to do another one, right?
Yeah, so that's what I did. I did Boulder because the first time I attempted Boulder was in 2018, and I DNF'd. And so after I did my 12th, because so I DNF'd Boulder, and it was my first DNF ever, and I got 8 miles into the run, and I couldn't. I was a mess, and I decided that on the flight home, I talked to my wife. I'm like, I can't wait another year for this legacy. I have to do this. She goes, let's find another race. So I signed up for Wisconsin, which is way harder than it looks on paper, just so you know. Signed up for Wisconsin, didn't even tell my family. I didn't tell anybody. I didn't tell my training partners that I was doing this race, because in case something went sideways. And I finished. It was my longest race ever, 16 hours and 40 minutes. But I finished, and for that extra one you were talking about, then I did Arizona was 12. When I saw you and Laura, Arizona was 12, and I had to do, and I was signed up for Arizona the next year, because that's the requirement. Once you hit 12 with Legacy, you're required to sign up and complete another Ironman in the next year. So when I was already signed up for Arizona, and I told my wife, I'm like, well, hey, that's the last race of the year. What if I crash? What if? Oh. So then I signed up for Boulder again, and I approached Boulder completely differently, and had a much better, I finished and a much better day. And so then, so that was my 14th one, was Ironman Boulder, to avenge my DNF.
That is awesome. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about the DNF, because I think this is really important. And a lot of people want to say, "Oh, I'll do anything to cross that finish." But there's times where you just should not cross that finish line. And I have 2 DNFs, and it's painful to have them, but it also seems really important. So what did you learn from your DNF that you said you wanted to come back with some vengeance? So
yeah, what did I learn? I learned that I hate that feeling. And there's nothing that feels worse than having them take off your chip and your day be finished. And I remember sitting there on the side of the run course, because I sat down again was like the fourth time I sat down, and the medic was like, he was like a vulture. Like, he was stalking me on his bike because he knew I was in a bad way. I couldn't keep any fluids down. I couldn't, and that was during Ironman Boulder. It was so funny. I was trying to drink some water, and I was by this park. There's some kids playing, and I drink some water, and I walk like 10 feet, and I'm start throwing up into this little river. And I hear from the park, ew, gross. And the mom going, shut up, he's sick. And she came over and offered help. But not long after that, I pulled the plug, and I remember thinking, when they pulled my chip off, it was the right thing to do. I would have wound up in the hospital if I didn't. I was so dehydrated. I was such a mess, and I did my nutrition all wrong.
Paul, that's what I was going to ask you. Did you figure out what caused it in the first place?
Yeah,
and then what you did
I did. And actually, John and I have had these conversations. Is I sweat so much salt out, but when I was just drinking water, I wasn't replenishing it with electrolytes and enough salt pills. And so basically, I just sent myself into this, electrolyte deficiency that made it so at that point, even trying to take electrolytes in, my body was kicking it back out.
Well, that's a lesson right there.
That's what I learned. And so then after John and I had a lot of conversations about this, I did this test where I put this swab on my arm, and I sent it into a lab to see how much salt comes out per milliliter of so it gives me an idea of how much sodium I need to take in. And so what I've changed since that is I don't drink any just water on the course. I always take in something with electrolytes, whether it's stuff that I put in my special needs bag or whatever. But water is to cool my head off, or to get the goo off my gloves and my hands. But it's not for me to drink anymore. I have to have some sort of salt, something.
I love it. And I really think that, that helps us mature as athletes. As hard as those situations are, it really does help build us up a little bit better. And I'll tell you, we're talking, in this call about multiple Ironmans, and on one hand, it's just what you do. But it is amazing how hard these events are. And again, a testament to your fortitude to getting all these Ironmans under your belt, and to come back after DNF, because that's not easy. It's not easy to do at all.
It's not. It's not. It's rough.
Let's flip it then, and I want to hear which of your events, and maybe even include your 70.3s or any of your races. Which one are you proudest of?
That's a good question, because I've actually had this conversation with my wife about, am I proudest with my fastest time, or am I most proud of just gutting it out and getting it done? And it's a toss up. I think my fastest time was 12 hours and 24 minutes, and also, so many people are faster than me, and that's okay. But that was my fastest time.
That's great.
And I remember being so happy with that. And then if you look behind me, that right there is my certificate right there, my finger. That's my certificate from my first Ironman finish. And that's my 12:24 right there. But then also Wisconsin was a tough one. But actually, I think Boulder second time around is really what the most proud of, because the course beat me once, but it wasn't going to beat me a second time.
So your fastest Ironman was your first one?
My second one, actually, because it was because I did Silverman first. And so, but then my first official Ironman event was Ironman Arizona. And yeah, that was my fastest one, 12:24. And I probably could have gone faster. I felt like I left stuff on the table on that one.
That's
Well, it's better than having it the other way around, have nothing left in the tank.
That's true.
All right. So, we talked about the DNF, talked about your proudest moment. Now, during every one of these races, I always, know that people run into dark spots. All right. How do
For sure.
you prep for those dark spots, or do you? And then how do you get out of them?
Good question. As far as I don't really do a lot of prep for the dark spots, and I just tell people, I go, you're going to want to quit 1,000 times during the race
Mhm.
for 100 different reasons, and you're mad at yourself, and you're mad at your mom, and you're mad at your 4th grade teacher, like you're mad at everybody at some point during an Ironman race. I was mad at John, I'm sure, but you're mad at everybody, and but it all works once you get to mile 25 of the run. It all makes sense.
Yeah.
But what I do tell people though, as far as to when you get to those dark spots, I always tell people when you're doing your first Ironman, your first or your 10th or whatever, I always keep your motion towards the finish line. If you miss it, if you have to pee but you miss the porta potty 10 yards back, you go to the next one.
Mhm.
And you just keep, because once you start moving towards the wrong way from the finish line, it does something up here. And that's what happened to me in Boulder, where I would stop and I would walk backwards to get into some shade, and I'm like, I don't think and it psychologically just messes with you pretty bad. So I would say that's the one.
I love it.
That's some good advice too.
Yeah, that's really good. You got to keep just moving forward. Okay, so now how do you approach race day? Towing the start line, what's going through your mind, knowing what's ahead of you?
I didn't train enough. I didn't rest enough. I didn't all the same things, 1,000 different things that I should have done differently. But on race day, once you get there, I talk a lot as it is. I'm a nervous talker in transition. So I like the newbies going, hey, I got all this I got this happening. And then there's some people with their headphones in that they don't want to hear me either. But I'm kind of a nervous talker in the morning. But then once you get in the water and the first few breaths and the first time someone swims into you or over you, then all the nerves are gone. And then it's just another day of it's a long training day. And for an Ironman, it's the only thing you had planned that day.
Mm-hmm.
You have nothing else planned. That's the only thing. So why not finish it? Because it's the only thing on your agenda.
I love it.
Kind of like, you can clear your mind of everything else. It's like you got one thing to do.
That's it.
I get that. I get that. That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, and you're well known for your finish line shoot kisses to your wife. So that's got to help.
It's the best part of it. My wife is the best cheerleader ever. And she's like the best Sherpa ever. She'll find me in Arizona. She'll find me on the run course 10 different times. She always knows where I'll be, tracks me all day, but on the bike course, I send her for a massage though, just so we're clear. And it usually, and the end of the race, it usually costs me a nice pair of shoes or a very nice purse or something, but worth it.
And that's fine. That's fine. All
hey,
right.
Hey, Paul, John and I have started doing triathlon couples, and I think you just signed yourself up. It would be wonderful to have you and your wife talk about how what the relationship is like and what it's like to Sherpa, for someone like you, and how you put all that together.
Oh, she'd love that. She'd be part of it.
Sounds good.
Not shy, and she'd love it. And she's it chokes me up when I finished Arizona for the last one where Laura Mercer finished the same one. It's like I crossed the finish line. Right before I crossed the finish line, when I kissed my wife, and I said to her, we did it. Because that was the one I needed for Legacy. And
oh, cool.
That was a really big moment. And
Yeah.
she's amazing. You guys have met her. She's awesome. She's far too pretty for me, and she's awesome. So
That is great. And you know what? I can hear the emotion in your voice and I can see it, and it means a lot. And it means a lot because you have a lot of passion for the sport. You have a lot of passion for training, and the two of you just seem to just have a lot of fun, or in life in general, and then even with triathlon. So,
yeah,
well, this has
she's
been great talking with you.
thanks, man. I appreciate it. I
Well,
appreciate you.
that was the fastest 30 minutes we've had, I think.
I love
We
it.
got to
Well,
get you back.
I'm happy to answer any more questions for any of the members that just, because look, here's the thing. As I've said before, I'm certainly not the fastest athlete out there on the course. I always tell people I'm always the most comfortable because I take my time in transition. I do what I need to do to make sure I finish. And sometimes I finish, if there's 3,000 people racing, sometimes I'm 1,257th. Sometimes I'm 2,500, and I don't care. I just get to the finish line because a 16-hour Ironman is just as far as an 8-hour Ironman.
Yep.
It's just, it's how it is. So
It's a wonderful attitude, and it's infectious. And when I do approach these types of spotlights, I want to be sure to get to know you a bit more. But you have so much experience. I've got questions here that I'm not getting to, and people want to know how you're doing it. And I think that you have a lot of experience that people would really benefit from hearing, and the right attitude too, because it's a lifestyle, it's an approach, and you can enjoy it, but it's a lot of work, and you got to respect the distance.
it is. It's been fun. I've been very fortunate to stay, injury free, and for the most part, the occasional strain muscle, but I listen to my body, and I eat pizza still. So my life's good, man.
That's awesome. I love it. Paul, this has been great. Thanks so much for joining us. I really enjoy it, and congratulations on Kona. And I'm hoping to be there, spectating at least with you, and cheering you on. So looking forward to it.
I appreciate you guys, and I'm looking forward. I'll be racing a couple more people from town with the lovely Laura Mercer, of course, and Charlotte Melenda, who is just super fast, and she'll be racing as well. And quick shout out to my coach, Chris Kemp, who is beating me up and doesn't let me slack and gives me shit if I don't. Oh, sorry, it gives me a hard time if I don't do what I'm supposed to. So
That's
I
great.
appreciate going to get me through it.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks,
Yeah,
guys.
thanks so much, Paul. It's been fun, and like John said, I have a lot of questions that I'm going to hit you up on myself.
Oh, we can stay. I got time right now. We can hang after we hang up the call or whatever.
I got to catch an airplane, so I'm going to run.
Anytime.
All right. Talk soon.
For sure. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.